machine. The brain's greatest trick. What if I told you that everything you see, hear, and feel, every moment of your life, isn't reality itself, but a hallucination? Not the kind induced by dreams or drugs, but one your brain is crafting right now, in this very moment. It's a radical thought, isn't it? That the world you perceive might not exist as you think it does. Yet this isn't science fiction. It's the consensus of neuroscience and philosophy converging. The human brain, remarkable as it is not a perfect mirror of reality. Instead, it's a master illusionist, weaving a version of the world tailored for survival, not truth. Every color you see, every sound you hear, every sensation under your fingertips is not raw reality. It's a construction, a model, projected by neural networks, designed to help you navigate the chaos of existence. To understand why this matters, we need to explore the brain's most astonishing ability, its power to create the world you think you live in, the illusion of reality. Let's start with something fundamental: perception. It's the foundation of everything you experience, from the vibrant hues of a sunset to the warmth of a loved one's voice. But perception is not a direct window to reality. The photons hitting your eyes, the sound waves vibrating your eardrums, the pressure on your skin, these are just raw data. Your brain takes this chaos of sensory input and transforms it into something coherent. It doesn't present you with the world, it invents it. Take color, for example. Out there in the universe, there are no colors, only electromagnetic waves oscillating at different frequencies. When those waves strike your eyes, your brain translates them into experiences we call red, blue, or green. These colors are not properties of the world itself, but subjective creations painted onto the canvas of consciousness by your neural system. What we call red isn't in the apple, it's in the mind. The same holds true for sound. Vibrations of air molecules don't come pre-packaged as music, voices, or thunder. They're rhythmic pulses, pressure waves. Your ear converts them into electrical signals, and your brain sculpts those signals into the experience of sound. In this sense, you never truly hear the world. You hear the brain's interpretation of it, a carefully constructed illusion that aligns with your expectations and memories. Even touch, the sense we trust most to ground us in reality, is not exempt from the brain's illusion machine. When you place your hand on a table, the atoms in your hand don't actually touch the atoms in the table. What you feel as solidity is the result of negatively charged electrons repelling one another. The firmness you perceive is your brain translating electromagnetic repulsion into the sensation of solid. This process of constructing reality is so seamless, so convincing, that we rarely question it. But it's not infallible. Optical illusions provide a window into the brain's interpretive process. When you look at an image that seems to move or shift, even though it's static, you're witnessing your brain imposing its own rules onto the data. These rules are shaped by prior experiences, contextual cues, and assumptions about how the world works. Remember the infamous dress debate? Some saw it as blue and black, while others swore it was white and gold. What you saw depended on how your brain interpreted the lighting conditions. In essence, your brain filled in the gaps, as it always does, to create a coherent picture. This same mechanism allows magicians to exploit your perception, drawing your attention to one thing while hiding another in plain sight. This doesn't just happen with vision. All your senses rely on the brain's ability to predict. When you hear a sound in a noisy room, your brain doesn't process every detail. It predicts what it should hear based on context and fills in the blanks. When you touch a surface, your brain combines sensory data with memories of past textures to tell you what you're feeling. Your reality is a patchwork of sensory inputs, stitched together by your brain into a seamless experience. But this raises a profound question. If reality is constructed, does an objective reality even exist? Philosophers have wrestled with this for centuries. Immanuel Kant argued that we can never truly know the thing in itself, the objective world outside our perception. All we know is the phenomenon, the version of reality filtered through our senses and cognition. Modern neuroscience agrees. The brain's job isn't to show us the world as it is, it's to show us the world in a way that helps us survive. Reality, in this predictive processing framework, is a controlled hallucination, a best guess that keeps being revised moment by moment. The implications are profound. If the world you see is a creation of your brain, shaped by your unique experiences and biology, then no two realities are identical. Your version of reality is as unique to you as your fingerprint. And that raises an even deeper question. If the world is an illusion, what does that mean for the self? To answer that, we need to dive deeper, into the heart of consciousness itself. Close your eyes. Think about the you that exists inside your mind, the voice narrating your thoughts, the memories that define who you are, the sense of being a single, unified self. It feels so real, doesn't it? But here lies the paradox. Just like the external world your brain constructs, this sense of self is an illusion too, one of the brain's most intricate and convincing creations. Philosopher Thomas Metzinger calls this the ego tunnel. According to Metzinger, the self isn't a thing or an entity, it's a process. The brain doesn't house a little you sitting behind your eyes, controlling your thoughts and actions. Instead, it generates a model, a simulation designed to help you navigate the world. This model is so immersive, so seamless, that it feels like a solid, unchanging I. But in truth, it's a dynamic construct, constantly shifting and adapting. This illusion of selfhood is built from countless threads, sensory input, memories, emotions, and future plans. Together, they form a narrative, a story your brain tells to create the perception of a continuous you. But like any good illusion, it's fragile. Change the brain, and you can change, or even dissolve, the sense of self. Consider altered states of consciousness, which offer windows into the mind's construction of the self. Psychedelics like psilocybin or LSD are known to disrupt the brain's default mode network, a system of interconnected regions responsible for self-referential thinking. Under their influence, many people report a phenomenon called ego dissolution. They describe a profound sense of interconnectedness with the universe, as if the boundaries between themselves and the world have melted away. Neuroscientists suggest this occurs because the brain's usual networks for maintaining the illusion of self are temporarily disabled, allowing the mind to experience reality beyond the ego tunnel. Meditation can achieve a similar effect, though through a different mechanism. Experienced meditators often describe moments of pure awareness, where the sense of I disappears entirely. In these states, consciousness remains, but without attachment to a personal narrative. Brain scans of advanced meditators reveal decreased activity in regions like the posterior cingulate cortex, which is closely tied to self-referential processing. These practices show that the self is not as fixed or solid as it feels. It's a construct the brain can dial up or down. Even more striking are cases from neuroscience and psychology where the self is disrupted due to brain injury or illness. Take split-brain patients, for example, individuals who have undergone surgery severing the corpus callosum, the bundle of fibers connecting the brain's two hemispheres. In these cases, the two hemispheres can act independently, creating the sensation of two distinct minds within a single body. One hand might button a shirt, while the other unbuttons it. This phenomenon reveals that the unified, cohesive self we take for granted is a product of brain integration. And when that integration breaks down, so does the illusion of self. Or consider depersonalization, a condition in which individuals feel detached from their own thoughts and body, as if observing themselves from the outside. People with depersonalization often describe their sense of self as hollow, as though they're watching someone else's life unfold. This isn't just a poetic metaphor, it's a documented psychological experience. For reasons not yet fully understood, the brain temporarily loses its ability to maintain the illusion of self, leaving the person feeling like a stranger to their own existence. These disruptions of selfhood raise a profound question. If the I you experience isn't as real as it feels, then who or what is experiencing the illusion? Some theories suggest that consciousness itself is not tied to the self. Instead, it's like a stage, and the self is just one of many actors. When the self disappears, the stage remains, offering a raw, unfiltered awareness of reality. This idea challenges many of our deeply held assumptions about identity and existence. In Western thought, the self is often seen as the core of who we are, a stable, enduring essence. But in philosophical traditions like Buddhism, the self is understood as an illusion, a construct created by the mind. The Buddha taught that clinging to the idea of a fixed self is the root of much human suffering. Liberation in this view comes from seeing through the illusion and recognizing the transient, interconnected nature of existence. Modern neuroscience aligns with this perspective. The self is not an essence, but an adaptation, a tool for survival. It gives us a sense of continuity, allowing us to plan for the future and reflect on the past. It helps us navigate complex social situations by providing a stable identity. In short, the self is a story your brain creates to make sense of the world and your place in it. But tools, no matter how useful, can be double-edged. The self is also the source of much of our suffering. It's the I that feels fear, shame, and regret. It's the me that clings to possessions, relationships, and identities, fearing their loss. Philosophical traditions like Stoicism and Buddhism have long argued that seeing through the illusion of self can be profoundly liberating. When you recognize the self as a construct, you're no longer bound by it. You can experience life more directly, without the constant narration of the ego. Yet even as we question the self, we should marvel at its complexity. The brain's ability to create a coherent sense of I from billions of neurons firing in concert is nothing short of extraordinary. It's a reminder of the brain's ultimate purpose, not to show us the world as it is, but to create a version of reality that helps us survive, connect, and thrive. If the self is a story, it's one your brain writes and rewrites every moment of your life. But this raises another question. If the self and the world are both illusions, how does the brain decide what's real? To answer that, we need to explore the science of reality distortion. Have you ever experienced déjà vu, that fleeting, eerie sensation that you've lived this exact moment before? Or maybe you've woken from a vivid dream, unsure for a moment whether it actually happened. These experiences are cracks in the brain's illusion machine, brief glimpses into how it blurs the line between reality and imagination. To understand how, we need to explore what happens when the brain manipulates reality itself. The brain is not a passive observer. It is an active editor, constantly revising your experience of the world. Memory, for instance, is far more malleable than most of us realize. Each time you recall an event, your brain doesn't pull up a perfect recording. Instead, it reconstructs the memory, filling in gaps or altering details based on your current emotions and assumptions. This process, known as memory reconsolidation, can lead to subtle but significant distortions. It's why two people can remember the same event in completely different ways, yet both feel absolutely certain of their version. But memory is only one part of the equation. Imagination and perception are often so intertwined that distinguishing between them becomes nearly impossible. Think about how your brain can summon an image of your childhood home with remarkable clarity, even though the house isn't in front of you. Now, imagine walking through that house in a dream. For those moments, your brain treats the imagined space as though it were real, activating many of the same neural pathways involved in actual perception. This overlap reveals a remarkable truth. The boundaries between memory, imagination, and reality are more porous than we might think. Take hallucinations as an example. While often associated with mental illness or drug use, hallucinations can occur in perfectly healthy brains under the right conditions. Sleep deprivation, for instance, can trigger vivid visual or auditory hallucinations. The brain, starved of rest, begins to misinterpret its own signals, creating sights and sounds that feel entirely real. Similarly, sensory deprivation, spending extended periods in complete darkness or silence, can cause the brain to generate its own stimuli. People in sensory isolation often report seeing flashes of light, hearing phantom sounds, or even feeling sensations that aren't there. In these cases, the brain is essentially filling in the void, crafting experience when the usual sensory input is missing. This ability to fabricate reality is not a flaw, it's a feature. At the heart of this process is something called predictive coding, a theory that explains how the brain builds and updates its model of the world. Predictive coding suggests that your brain is constantly making predictions about what it expects to perceive based on past experiences and current context. These predictions are then compared to incoming sensory information. If the two align, the brain accepts its model as accurate. If they don't, it adjusts its predictions, or in some cases, overrides the sensory input entirely. Imagine listening to a familiar song. Your brain often anticipates the next note or lyric before it even plays. This is why you might not notice a slight mistake in a live performance. Your brain's prediction smooths over the discrepancy. But predictive coding doesn't stop at music or minor details. It governs your entire experience of reality. Most of the time, this system works seamlessly, creating a coherent and stable world. But when it glitches, like in moments of déjà vu or hallucination, it reveals how much of your reality is constructed by the brain. One of the most fascinating examples of the brain's power to distort reality is the placebo effect. Imagine taking a sugar pill, believing it's a powerful painkiller, and then feeling your pain subside. This isn't just wishful thinking, it's your brain altering its perception of reality. Studies have shown that placebos can trigger real, measurable changes in the brain, such as the release of endorphins or changes in neural activity in pain processing regions. The opposite, known as the nocebo effect, demonstrates the same principle in reverse. If you believe a harmless substance will harm you, your brain can generate real symptoms like nausea or headaches. These effects highlight a fundamental truth. Belief shapes experience. The brain doesn't simply interpret reality, it negotiates it, blending sensory input, memory, and expectation into a version of the world that feels consistent and meaningful. But this raises a deeper question. If so much of what we experience is brain-generated, how much of it is real? Philosophers and neuroscientists have long wrestled with this tension. On one hand, there's an external world, atoms, molecules, and physical laws, that exists independently of us. On the other hand, our experience of that world is entirely mediated by the brain. We don't see electromagnetic waves, we see colors. We don't hear pressure waves, we hear music, voices, and birdsong. Everything we know about the world is filtered through the brain's interpretive machinery. This doesn't mean reality doesn't exist, but it does mean our access to it is always indirect. It's like looking at the world through a stained glass window. You see the shapes and colors, but the glass distorts the view. And while this might sound unsettling, it's also profoundly empowering. The brain's ability to distort and reshape reality is what allows us to dream, to imagine, and to innovate. It's what enables us to find patterns in chaos, to create meaning out of randomness, and to turn abstract ideas into tangible realities. But what happens when this delicate balance breaks down? When the brain's predictions collapse under the weight of conflicting inputs or overwhelming experiences? To answer that, we must explore the moments when the illusion machine falters, when reality itself seems to crack open. What happens when the brain's carefully constructed version of reality begins to crumble? For most of us, the illusion of a stable, coherent world feels unshakable. Yet, there are moments when reality distorts, when the brain's predictions fail and the seamless narrative it creates falls apart. These moments, though unsettling, reveal the inner workings of the illusion machine in ways that ordinary perception never could. Consider the experience of schizophrenia, a condition where the brain's ability to filter and interpret sensory information breaks down. People with schizophrenia often report hearing voices, seeing things that aren't there, or even feeling as though their thoughts are not their own. These aren't mere quirks of perception. They're fundamental disruptions in how the brain constructs reality. In a healthy brain, predictive coding keeps perception aligned with sensory input. But in schizophrenia, this balance is disrupted. The brain generates predictions that don't match the external world, yet it treats them as real. This creates a fragmented reality where hallucinations and delusions feel just as vivid as actual events. Another striking example comes from sensory deprivation. When the brain is starved of external input, it doesn't simply go quiet, it starts to fill the void. In experiments where participants spend extended periods in soundproof, lightless environments, many report vivid hallucinations. They see shapes and colors, hear phantom sounds, and even feel sensations that aren't there. This happens because the brain, deprived of its usual sensory data, begins to rely entirely on its predictive processes. It generates experiences from within, blurring the line between imagination and reality. Then there are near-death experiences, those profound, often life-changing events reported by people who've come close to dying. Common themes include seeing a bright light, feeling a sense of peace, or even floating outside one's body. Neuroscientists suggest these experiences may result from the brain's attempt to make sense of its own shutdown. As oxygen levels drop and neural activity becomes chaotic, the brain's predictive mechanisms go into overdrive, creating vivid, dreamlike experiences that feel deeply real. These aren't mere hallucinations. They're a testament to the brain's relentless effort to create meaning, even in its final moments. But perhaps the most jarring examples of reality breaking down come from individuals who've experienced profound psychological trauma. Take dissociative disorders, for example. For some, this manifests as a feeling of detachment from reality, as though the world around them is unreal or dreamlike. For others, it's a sense of being disconnected from their own body or identity. These fractures in perception aren't random. They're the brain's way of coping with overwhelming stress, a desperate attempt to protect itself by retreating into an alternate version of reality. One especially intriguing phenomenon is depersonalization, where people feel as if they're observing their own life from the outside. It's as though their sense of self has dislodged, leaving them disconnected from their own thoughts, emotions, and actions. This isn't just a poetic metaphor. It's a documented psychological condition, often triggered by extreme stress or trauma. Neuroscientists believe this occurs when the brain suppresses emotional responses to prevent further harm, effectively putting the self on pause. The result is a profound sense of unreality that can last anywhere from moments to years. Even more unsettling are cases of Capgras syndrome, a rare condition where individuals believe that someone close to them, like a spouse or parent, has been replaced by an identical imposter. This bizarre delusion arises from a disconnect between the brain's visual recognition systems and its emotional centers. The person can see and identify their loved one, but the emotional response that usually accompanies that recognition is absent. This mismatch destabilizes the brain's model of reality, leading to the eerie sensation of seeing a stranger in a familiar face. These moments, whether caused by illness, deprivation, or trauma, force us to confront an unsettling truth. The reality we take for granted is far more fragile than we realize. If the brain can fabricate voices, hallucinate entire worlds, or even detach from its own sense of self, how can we ever trust what we perceive? It's a disorienting question, one that challenges the very foundation of our understanding of existence. And yet, these cracks in the illusion aren't without meaning. They reveal something profound about the human experience. Even in the most extreme circumstances, the brain doesn't stop trying to make sense of the world. Whether it's through hallucinations, dreams, or altered states, the brain's ultimate goal remains the same: to create a reality that feels coherent, even if it's not accurate. This relentless drive to construct meaning is what makes us human. It's what allows us to adapt, to survive, and to find beauty even in the midst of chaos. But there's a deeper question here, one that goes beyond the mechanics of perception. If our reality can so easily fracture, what does that say about the nature of existence itself? Philosophers and scientists alike have wrestled with this question, exploring the tension between the subjective and the objective, the real and the imagined. Some argue that these moments of distortion reveal the limits of human understanding, that we are, at best, imperfect observers of a universe far more complex than we can comprehend. Others see them as glimpses into a deeper truth, a reminder that reality is not fixed but fluid, shaped as much by the observer as by the observed. Ultimately, the moments when the illusion cracks are not just anomalies, they're opportunities. They force us to question our assumptions, to look beyond the surface of things, and to confront the mysteries that lie at the heart of human experience. And in doing so, they remind us of the brain's greatest strength, its ability to create, to imagine, and to transform the raw data of existence into something meaningful. Yet, within these distortions lies a paradox. The brain's illusions, while fragile, are also its greatest triumph. They are what allow us to see the world not as it is, but as it could be. To understand why, we must explore the beauty of the illusion itself, the ways in which the brain's capacity for distortion enriches our lives and shapes the very fabric of what it means to be human. Why would the brain, this marvel of evolution, dedicate itself to crafting illusions? On the surface, it might seem like a flaw, a limitation that leaves us disconnected from objective reality. But what if these illusions are not errors? What if they're features, not bugs? The brain's capacity to reshape reality is, in fact, one of its most extraordinary achievements. It doesn't just help us survive. It allows us to thrive, to create, and to find meaning. Take creativity, for example. Every invention, every work of art, and every scientific breakthrough begins as an illusion, a reality that exists only in the mind. When a painter visualizes a scene that doesn't exist and brings it to life on canvas, or when a scientist imagines humans flying and invents the airplane, they are leveraging the brain's illusion-making abilities. These acts of creation are possible because the brain can blend memory, imagination, and sensory perception into something entirely new. Consider Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night. The vivid swirls of light and deep contrasting colors don't depict the literal night sky. Instead, they capture something deeper, the emotional resonance of a restless, brilliant mind. The painting doesn't show us reality, it reinterprets it, creating an experience that resonates with viewers on a level far beyond the physical. Without the brain's ability to distort and reimagine reality, art like this would be impossible. It's this capacity for illusion that allows us to see not just what is, but what could be. Beyond individual creativity, the brain's illusions also shape the societies we live in. Entire civilizations are built on shared realities, constructs that exist only because we collectively agree they do. Take money, for instance. A $100 bill is nothing more than colored paper, yet it holds immense value because we believe in its worth. The same is true of laws, governments, and even the concept of nations. These are shared illusions, frameworks constructed by the mind to create order and meaning in a chaotic world. This collective capacity for shared reality extends to culture and tradition. Think about rituals like weddings, holidays, or even the stories we pass down through generations. None of these have a basis in the physical world. They exist because we've agreed to assign them significance. Yet, they are deeply meaningful. They connect us to one another, giving us a sense of belonging and purpose. These shared illusions bind communities together, enabling cooperation and progress on a scale unmatched by any other species. Even science, our greatest tool for understanding the universe, relies on the brain's ability to construct models of reality. Scientists don't observe atoms or galaxies directly. Instead, they interpret data through theoretical frameworks, simplified models that make the incomprehensible comprehensible. These models are, in their own way, illusions, approximations of a reality far more complex than our minds can fully grasp. Yet, they allow us to predict outcomes, innovate, and push the boundaries of what's possible. The brain's illusions also serve an evolutionary purpose. Imagine trying to process every detail of your environment, the rustling of leaves, the faint hum of distant traffic, the subtle changes in light and shadow. It would be overwhelming. Instead, the brain filters and prioritizes sensory input, presenting you with a coherent narrative that emphasizes what's most relevant for survival. This isn't about accuracy. It's about efficiency. The brain doesn't need to show you the world as it is. It only needs to show you a version of the world that helps you stay alive and thrive. But survival is just the beginning. The brain doesn't stop at filtering information. It transforms it into a story. This is evident in our search for meaning, a uniquely human trait. We're driven to find patterns, to assign significance to our lives and the world around us. Religions, philosophies, and personal beliefs are all rooted in this drive. They're not grounded in objective truth, but that doesn't make them any less powerful. These narratives provide us with a framework for understanding existence and our place within it. And then there's beauty. Why do we find a sunset breathtaking or a piece of music moving? These experiences don't have a direct survival benefit, yet they're profoundly meaningful. Neuroscientists suggest that beauty arises from the brain's ability to find harmony and balance in the world. It's an illusion, yes, but one that enriches our lives immeasurably. Beauty is not a flaw in the system. It's a testament to the brain's capacity to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. Philosophically, the brain's illusions remind us of a profound truth. Reality is not something we passively observe. It's something we actively create. This perspective can be deeply liberating. If reality is a construct, then we have the power to reshape it. We can challenge our assumptions, rewrite our narratives, and choose to see the world in new ways. This is the essence of human growth, the ability to imagine, adapt, and reinvent ourselves. Of course, this raises a deeper question. If the brain's illusions are so pervasive, can we ever truly know what's real? Perhaps not. But maybe that's the point. The beauty of the illusion lies not in its accuracy, but in its ability to inspire wonder. It allows us to explore the infinite possibilities of existence, to imagine not just what is, but what could be. So, the next time you marvel at a sunset, lose yourself in a piece of music, or find comfort in a shared ritual, remember this: these moments are illusions, crafted by your brain to make sense of a chaotic world. But that doesn't diminish their value. If anything, it enhances it. These illusions are what make life meaningful, what connect us to each other, and what allow us to transcend the limitations of our own minds. The brain, in its infinite complexity, doesn't just process reality, it creates it. And in doing so, it gives us the greatest gift of all, the ability to find beauty and meaning within the illusion. Reality, as we perceive it, isn't an objective truth. It's a collaboration between raw sensory data and the creative genius of the brain. The fact that much of what we experience is an illusion doesn't diminish its significance. On the contrary, it reveals the profound ingenuity of the human mind. These illusions are not mistakes. They're masterpieces, evolved to help us survive, connect, and find meaning in the chaos of existence. Seeing through the illusion doesn't strip life of its magic, it deepens it. When we understand that the brain doesn't just observe the world, but actively creates it, we gain a new appreciation for its complexity. Beauty, creativity, and meaning don't exist despite the illusion. They exist because of it. So, embrace the illusion. Let it inspire curiosity and a willingness to question your assumptions. Use it as a reminder that the world you see is only one of infinite possibilities. And let it empower you to reimagine your reality, rewrite your story, and explore what might lie beyond the boundaries of the mind. The brain's illusions are not just tricks, they are the essence of what makes us human. If you're ready to keep exploring the mysteries of existence, subscribe and join us for more journeys into the unknown. Next time on the Neural Nirvana series, we explore neurons, nirvana, and the networked self. Is your soul wired into your synapses? Until then, stay curious, stay conscious. If this stirred something inside you, subscribe, like, and share this with a fellow seeker.